planned on releasing this podcast a little earlier, but midterms sort of got in the way, so I'm sorry for not uploading this past month. So I guess that's all, but anyways, enjoy the video. Hi, this is Arenthio here again with another podcast. I guess you guys can introduce yourselves.
Okay. Well, I'm Robina Wolf.
And I am Seawolf LA1.
I was just thinking a bit recently, and when people gain a lot of influence in any community, I'm not talking just in the furry community, but communities in general, people kind of just become monsters in a sense, right? Like, I don't know if it's because, like, when people have guidelines imposed on them, since they don't really, you can't murder someone because, I mean, people don't murder each other that often because there are social consequences to that, right? But like once those consequences are not there anymore, like people are more likely to murder, right? I feel like it's the same thing with having a lot of influence, right? Like there really aren't any social consequences for doing horrible things, so they just do it anyway, right? And I don't know that I feel like that's something that happens a lot. Or do you think it's more
literally
like
the quote that Donald Trump said? I could go onto Fifth Avenue and shoot someone right now, and like nothing would happen.
exactly like no, like I don't know if it's that or it's because the most manipulative, horrible people are selected for when it comes to influence, like especially on horrible sites like Twitter.
If you want to talk about online, I mean, this is a phenomenon that happens anywhere. When people have a space where, for the most part, they can't be touched and they're anonymous, all the inhibitions go away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of something I'm afraid of in the furry community. Like, I don't want this community to become like, you know, shitholes like the beauty community, right? The people there on top there are so untouchable and so like it doesn't matter what they do. Like it'll just gain them even more influence, right? Like I'm afraid that may happen. I mean, it may already be happening with the furry community, but like
I mean, that is true for furry and,
yeah.
you know, any other group.
Yeah, but like to such a large extent, right?
I think the other thing with the beauty community is that they just have like uber drama, like, and just the stupidest shit too, right? Like just
Yeah.
constantly, like so dumb. Like
Yeah, it makes the furry community look like heaven, honestly.
exactly.
Right.
So stupid.
Yeah, I'm
Like
so
I don't
glad
have
I'm not
any.
involved.
I
I'm
don't
so
have.
glad I'm so glad I haven't gotten in any contact with that community in any form. Like, I'm so glad.
Yeah, like I don't have anything to do with that community, and still, just like the amount of like stupid shit that happens there, like trickles down to me, even from like my corner of the internet where that I actually interact with.
Yeah.
Right. It's just so superficial, you know, because they put on this really big fake facade of what's going on instead of being true to themselves.
I've talked about this on the video I'm making right now, but like a lot of content these days is performative rather than being something that you do spontaneously, right? Especially in the furry community. Like the commentary community does this as well to some extent, right? They do it with drama, with high profile people, right? Like that's how that usually works. But you still have some people that are genuine, right? Like I know a few people that are like that, but for the most part in the furry community, there seems to be a formula, right? It's performative in a sense. Like I know the purpose of content creation, especially if it's your career, is to gain clout and gain money. But when that becomes the only thing that matters, like it becomes an issue, right? Like on paper, it might may sound, on paper it may sound fine, but like when things like zoo sadism or predators in general are a big issue in the furry community, they really don't do anything about it unless it's popular to criticize them or if there's something they can gain personally from the situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be something really, really bad, like the examples that you mentioned. Although,
Yeah.
to be
A lot
fair,
of them
like
still
the
get
only
away with it.
yeah,
Because
the
it's
only
not.
reason people actually noticed the whole like, the Zeus sadism ring with Kira the Wolf is because Kira the Wolf was involved with it.
Yeah, but like when like he wasn't always on the losing side of the situation, right? Like when
No, I mean
criticism
he
was sort
still
of
has fans and shit, and he still gets
Absolutely.
Patreon money. I'm pretty sure. I'm just saying, like, the
well,
only
what
reason
I'm
that ever got found at all is because he is high profile.
Yes.
well what I'm saying is like when there weren't as many people criticizing him, it wasn't really as clear as to who's on the winning side, right? So popular people in general really didn't want to get involved. Like rather than actually doing the research and putting their weight behind what they think is right, like they usually just play it safe and not actually get involved unless they see something that they can gain from the situation, right?
Well, I mean, the evidence against him was so damning that most of like the big popufurs actually did like denounce him.
Right.
Mhm.
Except for the
Like,
biggest
Yeah.
one that was Majira. He stayed silent the entire time. The only thing I think he really did was take down the videos with him and Kiro.
I think I remember a tweet from Majira saying that he has his like confidence in his friends shaken now, and he doesn't really know what to do, because I think he didn't really want to like condemn Kiro right away, but then he
I
came
mean,
around.
I'm
He
I'm
he
not.
realized the evidence later that was obvious from like when Kiro tried to come back.
Right.
Kiro
Yeah,
started
I
like
mean,
tried to start shit with him.
honestly, I think it's more of a business thing. Like, I mean, there's nothing really to gain if you're really on the losing side of a drama situation, right? I mean, it's a lot more profitable to get involved into drama if you're on the winning side and they're high profile, right? Like, no one chooses to be on the losing side most of the time if they're just there to gain clout and whatnot, right? Unless you're in very specific situations.
You're talking in like the context of popular accounts jumping on like drama bandwagons, just saying the
Yeah.
same thing over and over.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
people jump on bandwagons if it's like profitable to get involved in that sort of thing. But when
Yeah,
it
only
isn't
if
profitable, then no one, like none of the popular people get involved at all because they
yeah.
don't see it as something they can gain from.
They're only going to take the risk of, saying something about it when the person in the wrong like is very obviously in the wrong, or
Mhm.
they're so small that like they couldn't defend themselves.
Right.
Yeah, like the issue I have with the whole Karo situation or any situation that was similar to that is the community as a whole had to actually do the legwork to make
Yeah,
this
yeah.
known to the public, but like these popular people just sat back and made us do all the legwork, and
Because
all of us like
most
when
of
it
the
became
people I
popular.
remember who did all the digging and shit on Kiro and like made
Yeah,
videos about it and disseminated that information were people I'd never heard of.
Right.
exactly. Like they don't get any of the credit. Like you have all these no names doing all the legwork, and these popular people just swoop in at the end to like take all the credit basically.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like I remember a lot of like
I
I
will.
guess it's because a lot of really popular, especially like YouTube accounts, want this veneer of like family friendliness
Mm-hmm.
to some
But
extent.
like
So they don't
that's
want to talk about something that heavy. But then at the same time, on Twitter, they do these like denouncement and call out posts, and then people are like, oh, you're so brave for
Right.
standing
yeah,
up to
but like
this.
they didn't do any of the digging though, as you said before.
No, and they didn't actually use their platform for like anything other than, a Twitter post, right? They could have made a video on
I
it
mean,
and like
they could have
because that's
like
where they get their fame,
they literally could have like saved so much work for these like people who are digging, right? Like they could have made it um put this information out there that really easily, but they chose not to because it's not
Mm-hmm.
profitable for them.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
imagine if instead of I'm not saying like the work that he did was bad, it was phenomenal. I remember there was a guy named Archive the Wolf who did like a bunch of posts and updates on the Kira situation, even years after the fact, like going into um, what like the police investigation did and found and the court's decisions. I don't remember.
Going in
But
more of the after effect, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Like he did a great job, but I think he created his account specifically for that. Like, imagine if instead of him, it was Majira, and Majira did it competently. How many more people that would end up reaching?
I will say though,
Yeah, and
um,
like we wouldn't have had this intermission where no one talked about it, right?
Yeah, although I
And
have to add the caveat,
yeah,
it would have to be, a competently made video.
right.
I don't know if Majira would be up to that task as is.
I will say though, as much as the popular furs didn't do anything, there was a few that did pitch in. Just to have that noted. Right.
In a situation where you have a community, well, the furry community isn't that big, but it's a community nevertheless. It's at a certain size where you would have at least one person that would get involved, right? It's big enough that that kind of thing would happen, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of good people that are going to pitch in and say, okay, no, this is enough. Stand their ground, realize what's bullshit, not really care about the clout, but it's just going to get kind of buried, I guess is the word.
Yeah, I guess it's fine to like the entire purpose of having these channels is to gain clout and money and whatnot, right? But you cross a certain line when that becomes this like so prioritized in your behavior that you basically ignore these massive issues. Like when people do horrible crap, like they either don't do anything about it or they actively defend these horrible people, like PK Russell and Kara the Wolf.
Yeah.
See, he's doing the exact same thing with Glitch, right? He's a literal predator.
Oh, he
but
did?
no one is talking about it. Like,
Wait, PK Russell did a video on Glitch defending him?
yeah, exactly. Like he has a tendency of just defending popular people just because they're popular, right?
I mean, PK Russell, like, to his credit, did recant on Kiro, but by that point the damage was done, because I remember there were a shit ton of like little kids especially who like watch PK Russell's video and it's like, Kiro is innocent.
I don't like him. That's
Yeah,
why I don't like him. He's a status quo warrior so many times. Like in so many instances, he's a status quo warrior at the expense of actual victims, right?
So PK Russell was the guy that said, "Oh no," taking his side at first. Was that the guy who was talking about how the screenshots could be doctored?
Yeah, except like the amount of like that was one of the first videos I ended up watching on it, and immediately upon watching that video, I was like, okay, this guy has no fucking idea what he's talking about.
Yeah,
like
no,
even I knew more than him at that point by
his
looking
argument
into this for 15 minutes.
Like his argument basically boiled down to, oh, say it in a funny way, like say
He was just like
talk about the people who are talking about the evidence in a funny way, and
Yeah.
okay, there's proof. Like it's stupid.
he was literally just being like condescending, and that's condescending to anyone who was like saying otherwise, and that's his entire argument.
And to a little kid, like, I mean, that's good as proof, right? Like that's another one of these issues, right? Like whenever popular people do awful shit, like these fans are typically like underage. They're at an age where they're easily manipulatable, so they kind of just let them get away with this kind of stuff.
right.
Like you could see the same thing with Glitch, right? It's as if nothing happened. Like he's going on his merry way as if nothing happened.
I don't know a whole lot about
Like
Glitch.
he even has like what do you call it? A panel at Denver.
I think one of the big issues is that the younger audience that are joining the fandom, these younger furries, they are they're getting introduced by YouTube, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how it works. This is how the fandom works. This is my knowledge database. And they can't really go to fur cons or fur meets and realize, okay, no, this is kind of just, I don't want to say over dramatized, but maybe like overhyped. Like not all furries are like this. This is not completely how the fandom works, because they a lot of these guys are gay and they're or in the LGBT community.
You mean the kids?
Yeah. Or they're learning about that. They're kind of going through these things in their body and they're trying to figure out what they are and how to cope. And obviously, they don't want their parents to know about it, and so their
And this
parents,
is an outlet for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So they don't want to ask their parents to go to the fur meets and kind of, expose them like that. And so that's an issue because they're not going to these fur meets where people like me and people like the rest of my friends can be like, oh no, that's not how it works,
I mean,
or
Yeah, I mean,
like
what they
like
need
a
is they don't need another like Majira or whatever to tell them
yeah.
that everything is all fine and dandy all the time. I feel like some of the bigger YouTubers have been getting better about that, but not enough of them, you know, say it how it is. I think they
And like
butter it up a little too much.
also I think an issue is they sort of commercialize it in a sense, right? Um by that I'm saying like they make things overly sexual in their videos, and in a situation where it's obviously not appropriate to do that, right? Like if your audience is mainly like little children, right? It's not appropriate to make your content super sexual. But like
Yeah,
these popular people do it anyway because it's profitable. Like that like that's what I'm saying when um they only care about clout and money. So like
they don't
they
care
I
how
mean,
they're
like
we
affected.
don't want to be like the purity police here either, but yeah, it does
yeah.
get a little it's a little annoying to see these people who obviously have like very young audiences. You can just go into their
It's
YouTube
porn
comments
basically.
and be like, I'm 14 and I like your video, but then they make like a ton of really sexual jokes and
Yeah.
just
Right.
in like fursuit cuddle whatever the fuck videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like one of my friends actually went on to one of these popular YouTubers discords, and like you had like minors being super sexual with adults, which I
Ugh.
think is
Yeah,
really
that's not good,
like
especially
yeah.
in like one-to-one on Discord.
Yeah, but like it happens anyway because that's the type of environment that these popular people foster. Like it's really unethical, but like no one talks about it, no one cares because they they already have like these fans that bat for them basically, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of where the issue lies, you know?
But it's also like, yeah, I don't know, maybe just I'm trying to think of a way that this could actually be improved, instead
Yeah.
of just talking about the issue, like what could be changed.
I mean, like,
Like,
a lot of these big poppy furs, obviously they can't maintain everything in their servers or everything in, I guess, Telegram
But they
groups,
have a
whatever.
responsibility to do so though,
Yeah, absolutely.
because
They
they
need to
own the
tell
server.
their admins or mods, like, okay, you need to make sure that,
But like we're talking about the fundamentals here. Like they're
right.
unwilling to change since they profit from it, right? Like it's not like, oh, I don't want to, like, oh, it's very hard to like what do you call it? It's very hard to maintain this sort of thing. It's a choice that they've made, and they're not really taking the consequences very seriously.
but also
No.
I think another issue is going back to what I was thinking of, solutions for that kind of a problem, specifically around fostering that kind of community from their viewer base. If you're someone who's really big, like you have, I don't know, for example, 200K plus subs on YouTube and you're for a YouTuber, you're automatically going to have like a pretty young demographic because new people joining are just going to go to you first. That's just how the algorithm works. They're eventually
Yeah.
going to be recommended your videos. So like even if your creative outlet is a little bit more geared towards adults as opposed to, like 12-year-olds, how exactly do you get them to not watch you?
Right.
I
Because they
mean,
just see like a
like,
cute suit and they're like, ooh, and then that's it, right?
but honestly, if you have power over anyone else, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but if you have power over others, like, you should have at least some degree of responsibility to them, right? If you have power over them,
Yeah,
especially
no,
with
I
these
agree.
children.
I'm just wondering if certain creators legitimately don't want their content to be geared towards a younger audience, how do you drive the kids away? How
Well,
do
it's
you
kind
make
of
them not find your channel first if you're already really
Right.
big.
I mean, I guess it's your responsible duty to make sure it's 18
Yeah.
plus. Kind of let Ace
Yeah,
in.
but like
You
they
can't
don't
do that on
that
YouTube.
though. I mean, like you can make your content 18 plus, but they don't do it because it's not profitable.
That too.
Right.
They already know like how to use the 18 plus button. Like they're not stupid. Like with the whole glitch apology video, like he made it 18 plus so like none of his audience can actually see it, right? Like I made a video on this already.
Yeah. I remember this. But yeah, no, it's and YouTube's got in trouble with this before. You know, they got in trouble with all those weird kids videos that
Oh
were
yeah,
going on.
Elsa Gate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Exactly. And that's why they had to change that, but they didn't do it properly, you know.
They didn't change a whole lot, yeah.
No.
Like you can
They
still
actually,
find pretty much all of those videos. They just turned off the comments so they wouldn't be, you know, actual like pedophile breeding grounds.
right, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Which
and in a lot of ways, I kind of think, just a hot take, but I kind of think the furry community is a breeding ground for like pedophiles and zoophiles in a sense, right? Like the community enables that, in a sense. Like when you gain a certain amount of a following, like it becomes very easy to manipulate children into doing things that aren't consensual, right?
I can kind of see that. I mean, because the furry fandom is its whole thing is being open and really inviting, and
Yeah.
for scummy people, that is the same case, you know?
But the thing is, also, like, it's such a big sub community or like subculture
Yeah.
that those people can, you know, be open, but also never really be like discovered by a lot. Like, if
Right.
it comes out that a popular person is like a zoophile or some shit, like 99% of the fandom is immediately going to be like, fuck that. Or maybe not 99, but
Well,
most of the
depends
fandom's immediately going to be like, fuck that. I'm
depends on the
disassociating with this
situation.
person.
Well, it
But
depends on the situation. Like they might just simp for them, and they might just go away, like get away with it scot free. Like that happens a lot.
it depends on who's saying it.
Yeah,
Like, Don't Hug Cacti has definitely been like, you know,
they got away with it.
thoroughly. No, they didn't.
No,
Most
a
people
lot of
know
people have been,
about them.
yeah, a lot of people have been yelling about, like, any time they make a post, there's been a lot of backlash from them. And I don't even know the situation well. I just know there's
like a ton of people came out against one of their makers for like sexual harassment, animal abuse, like all kinds of things,
I
grooming.
see.
But like, why does this kind of thing have to happen all at once, right? I mean, that kind of points to the idea that a lot of them are actually afraid to come out because of the backlash. Like, if one guy who really doesn't have any power to defend themselves comes out about like sexual harassment and whatnot, like they really can't do anything about it, right? Like,
If
sure,
it's against a popular person, yeah.
yeah, if they make a post, like it's not going to get anywhere, and if the popular person sees it, like they can just make up something about that person.
An
Like,
example to add on to that is like, think about how many call out posts you actually see on Twitter that are successful, and then realize that there's probably 20 times more that never get anywhere but are just as valid.
exactly.
Right. But then
And
again, you also have the issue of people overreacting or just not bringing up proper evidence or just proper, like, hey, this person has like a court date because of X and Y. You should probably stay away from them.
Yeah, but that tends to originate with a popular person.
Right.
So the power dynamic is different. Like if it's somebody who has a shit ton of followers saying like, oh, this person said the N-word 47 years ago, then
I mean, that's going to hold a lot more weight than some random guy saying it.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, this is what I don't get. Like when people talk about like if you have something done to you that's like unethical, people just say, oh, just make a call out post, bro. It's not that simple. Like it's not really going to get you anywhere. Like your call up post is rarely going to get anywhere. Like this is considering the fact that a lot of the people that they're addressing don't have like enough influence to defend themselves in a sense, right? Like their call up post won't get anywhere, and they have to think about the backlash in a sense, right? Like literally glitches victim, like no one knows about the situation, and he's actually suing the person, like suing his victim for slander,
That's
which I
what
think is
I think.
so unethical. Like
Don't
what
Hug
the hell?
Cacti also did like a cease and desist order against the people who called
Yeah,
them out.
against their victims. Like what the
Mhm.
hell, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's
And
why a lot of
there really isn't anything they can do about it either. Like you get a lawsuit for being the victim, like, and you can't really fight back either. Like you can make a call out post about it. It's not really going to get anywhere.
Although, to be fair, to actually get sued for that kind of thing, it means you probably already had success in like actually calling them out.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they wouldn't care. You're just nothing to them, just a bug.
yeah. It's. I mean, when you actually look at a lot of these situations and see how hopeless it is for these weaker people, like it.
I mean, it's just
I can't really think of a solution for them. It's. I mean, for me, it's demoralizing. It.
Maybe you just don't have, social media platforms that are shitty and based on follower count.
right.
Yeah,
Or
but that's
just
not going to happen anytime soon.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
like it makes me lose hope in the community. It's just um seeing hopeless people that are actually victimized being
It's just
punished
a
for being the
symptom
victim.
of it's just a symptom of the way that the internet has been trending for like 15 years.
right.
Yeah,
Moving away from individual forums where like the people there, and like there isn't
Yes.
the only clout that there is based on like how active a certain person is. Like they don't have followers. You just know them because they comment a lot or something.
Right.
Whereas now it's
yeah,
like this person has 30,000 followers on twitter.com, and therefore all their followers see all their posts. But, somebody else might be, producing better content, but because they don't
it
have
really
as
doesn't
many
matter.
followers, the algorithm doesn't give a shit.
Right. Which is
Yeah,
why I guess the
I
fur
see.
mates are so important, is because these good people, these admins and whatnot, and you're able to kind of sniff out and like, you're gonna have a
Oh
good
yeah,
foundation if shit
in-person
hits the
events are
fan.
great
Yeah,
for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
like honestly, like I'm friends with like a lot of small YouTubers like me, and the ones that actually make unique content, they really don't get anywhere, right? I know a lot of channels that um generally make content that's higher quality than the ones that I'm making, like on average, but like
Right.
they only have 100 subscribers. It's like the community basically, like I'd say my content isn't that mainstream, but it still does somewhat fit into that commentary style, right?
Mhm.
In a vague sense, but like if people make yeah, I know.
I mean, so
Yeah.
is like every single one, I guess, but you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, that's kind of why the indie community needs to support each other, especially because the big guys aren't going to give you the time of day. You guys all need to support, retweet, like each other, include each other in. That's kind of how you get stronger, and that's how you get, I guess, more noticed.
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
I
Like
mean,
YouTube mutual aid.
what I
yes,
really don't get is like I know a lot of smaller YouTubers, and they seem to only shout out people that are much larger than them, and it really isn't reciprocated in any way, which
Why would you do that?
I have no idea. Like
That doesn't make sense.
it
no,
sounds so stupid, but it happens anyway. Like I can't understand why
Do
people
you
would
have an
want to do that.
example of that?
Oh, I don't want to name any names.
that's
I don't
fine.
want to get in trouble.
Yeah. No, it just definitely got to stick together as indie community. Like, I know the indie game community really well, and they do a lot of stuff to help support each other, like Follow Fridays and Wishlist Wednesdays and stuff like that. Like, good trends that are going to help each other out because they know like the furry community with the popufurs, their content's going to get swept over by these AAA games, you know?
Yeah.
The new Saint Row game is coming out. No one's really going to be paying attention to whatever little cutesy pixel game you just made. You got to stick together. You got to make friends. You got to kind of like push each other up to help each other out, because it is oversaturated, and you're just going to get buried if you don't try to, I guess.
Honestly, I feel like when I'm sorry for going off topic.
No, you're
but
fine.
Like, when I'm calling out bigger people, and like if I'm in the most optimal solution, it's like it's like don't bring a knife to a gunfight, right? Like you don't have that much influence to defend yourself or actually make something known, right? And like it's kind of like bringing a knife to a gunfight. So like you have to rely on numbers. It's like the Zulu War, right? You have like you have like a horde of people with melee weapons, and like a bunch of you just die while they just like it's like the Zulu War.
And it really shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be a numbers game. It should be like, wow, these are actual people that are actually enjoying my content, you know. And there are a few content creators that will say that. I don't think they fully realize it. You know, they'll say like, wow, I can't believe this many people are following me, and then they'll go off and just do something else.
They care much more about their Patreon supporters than followers.
Right.
Yeah, it becomes apparent when a lot of their content is it's like an assembly line video, right? Like you can literally find these ideas off of a generator. It's that mundane and
it's predictable.
That is also just kind of a symptom of how the internet works these days as well. Like take for example trends on TikTok. Everyone is doing the same thing because the algorithm favors that. If you're going along with like a hashtag or a trend, then you're automatically going to get like more attention than doing something original. That's just how it works. And that's why so much content in like all corners of the internet today is just kind of like copy paste at this point.
It's homogenous.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It disincentivizes creativity.
Yeah, that's why there are so many underrated artists in the furry community, for instance, right? Like you're not really allowed to I mean sure you're quote unquote allowed to not really fit into that generic art style in a sense, right? That generic furry art style in a sense, like my profile picture, for instance. Like you're not really allowed to stray from that if you're going to get anywhere on art Twitter or something along those lines, right?
Right. But in a way, it's kind of a good thing that they say. I mean, like, I want all the smaller creators to get big, to become popular, to get the recognition they deserve. But with being popular, like you said, brings in more issues. So I guess in a way, it's kind of a good thing sometimes, because you don't have people that are only after your looks. You don't have stalkers. You don't have.
I mean, I'm talking more of like diversity of content. Like if there's what was I talking about? Sorry. Like like in a situation where varying art styles are celebrated, like you're going to have a lot more diversity of content rather than how it is right now, where you're only allowed to have certain styles and nothing else.
Art style is really a big issue because I do see quite a bit of diversity of art style. I think the bigger thing is just like people try to emulate the style of the most popular people.
Yeah.
This is true. Because I see, there are a lot of really unique art styles out there, but they always get overlooked by the, I guess, popular furry style, which is interesting.
That was the point I was making earlier.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing back on Google Plus, where that's really where I like came into my own in the furry community, where I really started interacting. A really funny post that someone made of like this incredible art that was made by a sort of smaller creator, really, really good technically, and it had like emotion and feeling. And then like next to it was like this, like bubbly cartoony art that probably took like 10 minutes to draw, but it was drawn by a popular creator and of their like popular character, right? and the like ratio was just like 10-1, you know?
Right. Yeah,
Insane.
Like
exactly.
1,000 likes on this like really simple like drawing that you could have done in 10 minutes versus this really like interesting, technically superb, I don't know,
Yeah, no, I
piece that
hate
had a lot of feeling.
that
Yeah.
stuff drives me fucking nuts because I'll work my ass off drawing a beautiful background, a beautiful, like, in-depth character, and then the minute I do some stupid doodle, everyone's like, oh, this is hilarious. I'm like, no!
I mean,
Yeah, don't pay
even on YouTube, like when I make a really high production video, like I kind of feel demoralized when it really doesn't get anywhere, right? Like while some other popular guy just makes like a crappy little podcast like this, but it's like something that's super. It's about something that's super mundane, right? Like oh, how was your day? Like small talk and whatnot, right? And that
Right.
gets a lot further than me putting in all of this effort.
Or it's
Yeah.
like the popular people on Twitter who literally just post like hi and get 300 likes. It's like,
It's stupid.
why?
Right. Absolutely.
It breaks my brain.
Yeah, my
What
brain
kind of
hurts.
NPC do you have to be to just see popular person post word and like notice me? I don't know.
Like, how can
What
you
is
be
going through
so
your head?
dedicated to someone that doesn't really give a shit about you? Like,
Mhm.
I can't really rationalize that in any way because it's not really rational in the first place.
Right.
I mean,
Well, it's just these younger kids.
Yeah.
They watch them and they kind of fall in love with the character and who they are, and I guess they feel a connection. But then when they interact with them in real life, they find out it's not the case.
well,
And
I mean, even with that, like
Yeah,
they
it's
simp
like
for him anyway.
all the people who forms parasocial relationships and then they somehow meet that person in real life and they're like super disappointed because they don't instantly become best friends or some shit.
right, and the thing
Yeah,
is,
but like that really boggles my mind, right? Like they expect something from the situation. They expect to be friends with them or something along those lines, right? Even though
yeah,
it's not really it's not viable. Like it's like saying, oh, if I get into this stupid scam program, I could make $1 million. Like
An
it,
MLM.
yeah, it's like your goals are very impractical, right? Like that's how I feel a lot of these parasocial relationships are like, right? Like they think that they'll gain they'll gain a friendship with one of these popular people when they're competing against millions of other people or hundreds of thousands
right.
or whatever it
I
may
mean, the
be.
same thing happens with celebrities all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is not just a fandom thing. This is everywhere
Yeah.
thing.
And it's becoming more and more important, right? Since it's more and more well, our lives
It
are
just
more
gets
and more
worse. It just
integrated
gets worse and
with
worse because of the internet.
Right. And the thing that doesn't help is, like, for example, when I was really into furry YouTube, which has been a while since I've watched any really furry YouTubers, I went up and I said, I didn't have a parasocial, I was just like, oh, cool. I want to say, hey, I appreciate your work, and then go on my merry way. But when I went up to say hello to these people, they just kind of seemed shocked, and they didn't seem like they cared at all about what I said. A few people seemed really appreciative, like, oh, thank you so much, like, what did you like? But most of the furry YouTubers did not care. They're like, okay, cool, whatever, here's a photo, bye. I'm just like,
yeah,
really?
they want to get away as soon as possible.
Yes. Like, I remember I was, like, encouraging one of the people dancing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna root for you. Like, good job. I wish you luck. And they didn't give two shits. Like, they're just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
Like, they,
you're just a nobody in the crowd. Like no one cares.
right.
I'm sure they get a lot of that. You don't stand out.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
just, I don't know, that's just extremely disappointing. Because, like, this is the furry fandom. You're not on NBC. You're not on Adult Swim. Your little character is only popular in the furry fandom.
Yeah,
You should
it's
appreciate
just a
what you get.
microcosm. They feel like, I mean, if you're at the top of any group. You're the big fish in the pond, right? You think you're the
Right.
shit, even though you're in like this small little puddle of humanity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, it's just like it's kind of like the Spider-Man thing. Well, with great responsibility, you know.
Yeah, but like in the furry community, you don't see any responsibility.
No.
You just have the power, no responsibility.
It's like
And like they get away with this crap anyway. Like
right.
even if they do horrible shit, like they just get away with anyway. Like in fact, like I've just done a bit of research and Kiro is just making his shitty videos as usual.
Has he continued?
Yeah,
I
let
think
me look it
so.
up. Kiro.
I thought he hadn't done anything since like May or whenever it was when he tried to like
Yeah,
come
like-
back.
I did. I heard he tried to come back to a convention too, and a
Yeah,
bunch of
like,
people
he
saw
was-
him.
Wait, he
made-
did? Oh shit.
He made like a shitty like. Oh, I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised if he just made a comeback and just people just forgave him for some stupid reason. 'Cause they're
No,
little
no,
kids.
he's one of the few cases where what he's done is utterly unforgivable.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
nobody will forget that.
Oh, I like how he tried to like seem relatable by making that Walmart video.
Walmart?
Well, I worked at Walmart too. I'm relatable.
Right. I worked
Oh,
Well,
at
he probably
McDonald's.
does now, considering his Patreon's probably like 2 people.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's that one crazy weird guy who like thinks he's Jesus or something and is like a moderator in his comments.
Oh God.
Do
Yeah,
you know
but,
who
like-
I'm talking about?
No. I have no idea.
You can find him in the comment section of every single video about Kiro.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's a weird
He
problem
starts
to have.
like writing freaking novels about how Kiro has actually been forgiven by God and he's like the second
What?
coming of Christ. He
What?
has been crucified. So fucking weird. It's hilarious.
Oh my God. Is it like genuine or is it just ironic? Like, is this someone like a
No,
memester?
this guy has like actually done this on every single video
Oh
that
my
I've
God.
seen that even like mentions Kiro.
That's really
Wow.
funny. Like he doesn't get his like YouTube money, so he's working at at Walmart now.
Well, I know he was working there. Like he was
Yeah.
working on fast food while he was doing this, and then he did an interview with Shane Dotson, and I'm
Oh
assuming,
yeah, then he exploded.
yeah,
Yeah, that's another thing. It really doesn't matter. Like if you look at the content he just made, it's so like I tried watching it. Like I really can't. It's so boring. Like
So generic.
yeah, so generic, so boring.
fake.
Like literally the only thing that separated him from all the other people who made the same type of content is that Shane Dawson BS.
And
like,
that's a funny thing too. Like the very first thing, the very first way that I actually learned about what happened with Kiro was through a pretty small YouTuber who basically just made this video, but he was like his voice was like shaking. He's like something really bad happened, and I remember him saying like he wasn't gonna say who, but at the end of the video he was like Shane Dawson is watching, you know. But
Oh,
then
wow.
the funny thing is like Shane Dawson has done really bad shit too now, and like he's
Yeah.
kind of been like disgraced, not nearly to the extent as Kiro, but like it's just funny too. It's like the other really, really popular person in the normie sphere has also been, you know, sort of disgraced from his position, just as
Right.
Kiro did. And it's like, yeah, Shane Dawson may have been watching. He may have heard about the Kiro stuff. Actually, I think he did because he took down the video.
He did,
But
yeah.
the thing is, he's also really shitty.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember the scandal that he was in again. Wasn't it something to do with like
Numerous.
baseball or something like that?
What?
oh yeah, like sorry for interrupting, but
No, you're
He's
like
done like he did a bunch of like racist shit in the past, like blackface and minstrel
Oh.
shows.
Like there was another video that was really popular around that time. It was like, oh shoot, it was like,
I mean, like, have you noticed this as well? But like in most general furry YouTubers, a lot of them aren't really that meritocratic, right? They make the same content, but really the only thing that separated them from the others is like
they were
one,
first and they had suits.
or they have like one video that goes viral, or they have someone
Right.
that endorses them. There really isn't. no one really explodes or
Yeah,
like
it's
rises
interesting.
over time based on merit, right?
It's interesting to look at a lot of like the big furry YouTubers accounts today and see like, oh yeah, they have this many uh, subscribers, but on each individual video, they get very, very few views in ratio to their actual subscriber count.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's because
Very few
people
are
are
actually
starting to
watching.
notice that their videos are boring in a sense, right?
Or it's just people are growing out of it. Like I don't.
Yeah.
That's true
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that day to happen. I'm gonna be so happy. Like people will actually have a brain for once.
Well,
And
no,
people
I
will
think
start-
it's actually worse. I think the problem is a lot of kids are, instead of being introduced on YouTube, which like isn't great, but it's better than being introduced on like
The
Twitter and
news.
TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Right.
No, I'm being introduced to the furry fandom.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, think about like in the '90s. People who didn't know about furries were introduced by furries by the news, slandering them and the name, and
Well, to
also
some extent, yeah.
yeah, and also
I don't
just
know. I didn't exist in the 90s.
Me neither.
I did, but I was a child.
Yeah.
We're
No,
the
but they slandered
Zoomers.
them, and same with like the CSI episode that's become very popular in the fandom that
Uh-huh.
portrayed the furries as being sexual deviants. No one really knew that that wasn't what it was about. Or I guess in the case of my boyfriend being in that fandom at that time, he told me that it was very sexual. It was very much a way for people in the LGBT community to hide away and actually be themselves in a safe place, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because like popufurs today would be like, or you know, in maybe 2015 or whatever, making their videos about the fandom, they'll be like, oh no, it's just like all good and like it's fine and kids safe,
Right.
and it's like, if you actually
No.
listen to the people who were there back then,
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
No.
no.
No, it wasn't. And but that's
But
what he
there's
said.
nothing
Though.
necessarily wrong with that. It's just
It's just a
don't
safe
bullshit.
haven. It's a safe haven for LGBT people.
Oh,
Which is a
absolutely.
good thing. It's just like, just don't bullshit about that.
Yeah, don't
Like,
don't
tell
make
Right.
it
like
like
it is.
I mean it's not like
Don't give people the wrong idea, especially young impressionable kids.
yeah, like it's some kind of Disneyland. It's not a Disneyland.
Right. Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
actually, I think a lot of like the so-called degeneracy of all of this is like actually a good thing in a lot of ways. It keeps the majority of normies and corporations out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's true, yeah.
Keep the kink art factories running. Stave off the normie hordes and capitalism itself.
Right, yeah, no,
Yeah.
somebody made that comment too because the furry fandom is so,
A
sexual.
lot of
and-
people have said that. I'm not being original
Yeah,
here.
No.
I'm glad. Like, I mean, I had the same thought before. Like, I'm glad that the community has a bad reputation. Well, not like bad reputation in the sense that it doesn't adhere to normie standards, right? Like, oh, this is degenerate, so it keeps the normies out. That's good.
Right. It's more of just like they can't capitalize on it. Like no big company like Walmart can mass produce fursuits or something like that because of, I guess how small it is and because of its reputation, because of a company like
Well, I
Walmart.
mean,
Well, but Walmart already
Well-
did. They made the Maskimals thing.
That's true.
That became really
Well-
popular with like especially really young furries who like didn't have access to a suit, you know?
Well,
Right.
I mean, like it's kind of debatable, right? Like if someone in the furry community does the exact same thing, like they get a pass if they're popular. But if someone
What do you
outside of
mean?
it, like
I
if
don't think I don't think a furry has access to like industrial capacity to make
no, like
suits.
like let's just pretend that like Majira all of a sudden got like enough money to build a factory or something, right? And he made fursuits. Like people would accept that. People wouldn't like push back at all. Or like the pushback would be very small in a sense, right? But if someone like Wish did the same thing, like all of a sudden
There'd be
people would-
uproar.
yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
people
exactly.
be pitchforks and everything on Twitter.
Yeah. I guess like maybe it's marginally better that somebody from inside the community would be doing that.
Well,
But at the
no,
same
yeah.
time, it's like a corporation's a corporation. It's
Yeah.
still
like
the
they
boot
take
you're under.
a lot of people in the community, especially if they have a lot of influence, they sort of take advantage of quote unquote I like to call it like furry nationalism, right? Like they take advantage of the furry identity, like pit them against outsiders to like get what they want from the people in the community, if that makes sense.
Do you have an example of that? Like, what do you mean getting things from them?
Like making something acceptable in a sense, right? Okay,
Hypothetically,
so if someone's like mass producing like merchandise of like I'm not talking like t-shirts or anything, right?
Just do like underwear or
Um
something.
yeah, like the furry community advertises itself or like one of our principles is like we don't like mass produce stuff in general.
everything is
Um
Right.
individually made.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
but like when popular people have merch, well not like t-shirts, but like something that's more personalized to the furry community and they like mass produce that, like there really isn't any backlash because they're popular, right? And oh actually hold on,
Yeah,
that
because
wasn't addressing the whole national something.
well, you kind of are because it's like it's acceptable to do a little bit of capitalism when it's a furry doing it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's indie. You're trying to make
well it's
a
not
name for
indie,
yourself.
they're like they have a factory that they're commissioning these items from.
Yeah, I mean, like, selling your YouTube merch or something. You're not literally sewing these shirts yourself. You're going to
No.
a third party. That's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about like a fursuit maker. I'm talking
Okay.
about
Yeah,
when you're like doing some mass produced shit.
yeah, like the
Like people
plushes,
see it as
poppy for
acceptable to
plushes.
do that kind of, capitalistic thing, even though like if it was an actual corporation that, an outsider corporation doing it, then they'd be mad.
Oh,
Even though
absolutely.
it's functionally no different.
Yeah, but then that also
Oh
creates a
yeah,
bunch
yeah,
of
yeah.
issues too.
Like with the whole nationalism thing, like when they like fuck up personally, or like when something an issue is attributed to like influential peoples themselves, like they attribute it to being like an outsider's issue, right? If that makes
Wait,
sense.
what do you mean?
I'm trying to like
Is
I
it like say they buy a shitty sweatshirt or like a shitty t-shirt and it falls apart and their customers are buying it? They're like, "Oh no, this isn't my fault because I didn't do research. It's the company's." Is that what you're getting at?
like whenever they get criticized by people within the community, right, that actually see issues with um like something they fuck up with, right? Like they attribute that to like outsiders being um aggressive in a sense,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
they blame it on the haters instead of,
yeah,
actually taking criticism.
like
Mm-hmm.
whenever people within the community criticize popular people, like they attribute that to people outside of the community. Like, oh, these are outsiders that don't care about the community, even though they're actually people within the community,
It's
right?
kind of like Fox News calling you un-American just for, disagreeing with something, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was saying when I said like nationalism. Like it was on the tip of my tongue.
Exactly.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
But no, even with independent makers, there's a whole new issue too because they're smaller and they don't really go by contracts that help protect the seller. So when these people are like getting scammed and everything, they're losing thousands and thousands of money on fursuits and whatnot because of these small guys. I know it'd probably be the same way if a big company did it or another company in general, but
A
it kind
company
of is a
did.
double-edged sword.
Do you remember DH Gate?
No.
There's like a Chinese company that's a subset of
Oh, the
Alibaba
knockoffs.
called DH Gate, and they posted pictures of like, random people's personal fursuits that they had commissioned,
Right.
and they made like these awful, like shitty versions of them and
Yeah.
sold them mass produced,
It's kind of like
yeah,
become
but
a meme.
like people didn't like that because they were outsiders, right? If it was just a furry that did it, then or not just any furry, a popular furry that did it, then they'd be completely fine with it.
Well, I don't know because if it was a popular person who did it, and it wasn't somebody's, already commissioned character, then yeah, they'd be fine with it. But I think
Yeah.
people do actually care about like stealing characters,
Yeah, no,
Like for
absolutely.
example, the guy who had the Confederate flag fursuit, who was like
Oh,
banned from
God.
conventions,
Yes.
he also
Yeah.
had a fursuit that was a copy of someone's who had who's like a
Passed
paramedic who
away.
died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like people were possibly
about
like
it.
just as mad about that as they were about him being, a reactionary shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, also he gave alcohol to like a 17-year-old at a con.
Yeah, it's a big no-no. Anytime I'm ever at party cons, we always check people's ID ahead of time.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
It's just a responsible thing to do.
Yeah,
you don't want to give alcohol to minors.
That's responsible. Like a lot of people that have influence just flout that for the sake of, oh, it'll get more people or it'll make me more money.
Right, and no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, when it comes to anything, like their Discord servers, right? They allow minors to interact with adults in a sexual manner, and they just get away with it anyway.
Yeah, no, not good. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm excited to see you guys at the convention coming up, but we can cover that afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone on for an hour and 11 seconds.
Yeah, would you like to?
I'm probably gonna shave it down actually, since like editing.
That would
Fair
be
enough.
appreciated.
No,
If
I think pretty much we've made good points for the whole thing now.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to end it now then? Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll put their socials in the description, and if you want to talk to me on Discord, like I'll put that link in the description as well.